Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sunday Club, and it's great to be here. This week's going to be interesting because Uncle Sam got us all talking with his grand plans should the Congress come to power in the country. And I have two very informed experts with us. There's Saurabh, who's joining us from the US, and there's of course our old friend Suhel Seth. Emphasis on the old, but let's just break this down. Wow, what's that? Suhail's playing music. Suhail, do you want to just give us a brief on what Uncle Sam said?
So San Petroda first, as always, put not just his two, but several other feet into his own mouth. The beauty is that Sam Petroda, Manishankar Iyer are now classified and certified workers for the BJP. I don't think the BJP makes these kind of bloomers with such efficacy as these guys do. So, what did Sam Petroda say? First, he gave us a lecture on the United States inheritance policy and then talked about, oh, if you have 10 billion, you leave there, blah, 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 blah. And then he says that, by the way, you should also consider it in India. Now, here's the point. After that, Jairam Ramesh criticized and distanced himself from that. But in the meantime, the damage had been done. Then the Congress, being the Congress, said, oh, we haven't said anything, we haven't done anything. This is not. So they put him under the auto, not even the bus. Now, here's the logic. If Sam Petroda was a lone wolf and was talking in a stray manner, then where was the context? He had actually contextualized his utterances to what had already been said about redistribution. Jairam Ramesh later went on to say that where do you find the word redistribution in our manifesto? But how many people read the manifesto? They'd already been talking about redistribution of wealth. Rahul Gandhi made that stupid comment that मैं आपके पैसे लूंगा. But by the way, ये Rahul Gandhi है कौन हमारे पैसे लेने वाला? He's not the prime minister. I don't think he'll ever form government. I don't think he'll ever be India's prime minister. He won't be the tax chief. Who the hell is he to say, I'll take away your money? Third, India is a country where there are various kinds of dhan. There's three dhan, which you bring. Then there is legacy dhan. People have a high rate of savings. People are saving for the future. People are also saving for emergencies. We know for a fact that people in India save for weddings, they save for their children, their education, blah, blah, blah. We don't have the level of social security that America has. So first, for Sam Petroda to compare this to America in itself is an odious comparison. David Ogilvy, if he were alive, would have called him an odious jerk, which he called Martin Sorrell, for those who don't know. The other point is that when you are talking at election time, then to say, but Jayant Sinha had also mooted it. Hey, Jayant Sinha had mooted it. Arun Jaitley, who was his boss, had thrown it out of the window. In any case, during election time, if let's say an Advaita or a Sorab say something which has an impact on the population, what do we assume? We assume that this is what they have in their mind once and if they form government. So my point is very simple. Redistribution of wealth is a pipe dream. If it isn't a pipe dream, it's a very dangerous poison pill that these jokers want to feed the entire population. It is something that is unacceptable. It is something that is not required, and it is something that is pernicious. This level of economic jugglery and economic thievery is unacceptable in today's India. Remember, this person's grandmother ruined the Indian economy for a long, long time, preceded by his grandfather. Why? Their constant belief in socialism led to the license Raj, which led to shortages and led to artificial pricing, which led to a black market, and that black market continued. This is the family which nationalized insurance and then couldn't do anything. Nationalized banks couldn't do anything. So where do you go? And what kind of nonsense is this where you in a Gobellian manner say, oh, by the way, we are going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. I will end my opening remarks by saying one thing, Advaita. I don't even know, and I say this with grave responsibility, I don't even know if the Congress really likes India and Indians. Their hatred for Narendra Modi has now translated to a hatred for everything that is uniquely Indian, that is progressively Indian, and that is for the benefit of every Indian. Are the BJP not making mistakes? Of course they are. I don't believe this is the time to be so divisive publicly, to bring religion in the manner that they have. But two wrongs don't make a right. Someone needs to muzzle people in the Congress. And if that can't happen, then the Congress is its own worst enemy, as we've seen over and over again.
Yeah, and welcome, Sandeep and Saurabh. Coming to you at when we were chatting earlier last week, you told me you're a recovering Marxist, or you've already recovered rather. So, and you live in the US. I must point that out as well, where you do have inheritance tax. What do you make of this pitch by Sam Petroda at this point of time? Now, let's remember that he is a key advisor to Rahul Gandhi, who says the same things on much bigger platforms and is ostensibly a prime ministerial candidate. So this is serious.
Yeah, I think the first thing is that I'm not sure his phrasing and his quantitative um, area is correct, because I don't believe we have federal inheritance tax over here, and it varies from state to state. So in the state that I live in, Pennsylvania, there is certainly inheritance tax. It's not as dramatic as it is in the UK, which is at 40 to 50%. But it does exist. Actually, the two states that are near the state that I live in, Pennsylvania, I live in, and New Jersey and Maryland, they also have inheritance tax. So my plan is 6 hours before I die, I'm going to run to Texas and set all my estates over there. No, I think it's part of this this movement, which has never really died. It's kind of crops up and down, which is one of this idea of equality of opportunity, egalitarianism, and it always goes wrong. And the idea is that we have unequal paths in life, which is correct. Some are born in influential families, some aren't. And I don't think money really contributes as much to that as just having a stable family culture, as having parents who say to you from the age of 3, read, 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 like my parents did. So money is a very small component of that, and you can't get rid of that. I mean, all you can do is aspire people to move, and that's what India has done so well, what the United States has variably done fairly well, where I believe Sam Petroda spent a lot of his career, right? I mean, he went there, he did very well there, he came up with some gadgets and patents, and so I'm surprised that he didn't leave the country with the ethos of free market and capitalism and bring that back to India. I think what he's talking about really goes back to sort of the kind of the Bolsheviks, which is, let's get rid and level the playing field. But you can't really do that without a hugely fascist government. And inheritance tax is just, and it also goes against, as Suhel said, the very idea of the Indian culture. The Indian family saves. And the Indian family, if you just look at it from the economic perspective, saves the government so much money, like the kids taking the parents to the hospital, looking after mum and dad when they're, recovering after an illness. The Indian family is an economic powerhouse. So you don't want to destroy the ethos of that at all.
Interesting perspective, and that's rather alarming, Sandeep. What Saurabh is saying is that to implement what Sam Petroda is doing would need a hugely fascist government, something that the Congress accuses Modi of being. So that's an interesting sort of analogy.
Yeah, so that's a lot of contradictions there. Sort of, you said, calls himself as what, a converted Marxist, or he had recovered Marxist. And somebody would say Sam Petroda is probably a converted Marxist, because I was reading the other day a very educating article by Rashid Kidwai, to said that the whole Sam Petroda and company, they were earlier called the Chicago Group or something. And when, during Rajiv Gandhi's term, they actually, fought against the communist influences within the Congress party, and in fact, here to shift them right. And now Sam Petroda, for whatever reason, in his old age, I don't know whether there's been some kind of realization, he's trying to move extreme left from that position. So there is something, and that's something, as I think Mr. Kharge very inadvertently said in one of his speeches, that he is doing it only for votes. And though Mr. Kharge didn't mean Mr. Petroda, but it came across as he was talking about Mr. Petroda. So that's it. But coming back to, I know there are two other perspectives I'd like to bring in, Advaita. As we have seen in the case of income tax, who pays the maximum tax and how many people pay the tax in this whole economy? Now, similarly, the people who have real wealth, they will never pay any inheritance taxes because most of their wealth are in various different forms, and nobody even knows the kind of way where those wealth is held. I'm always reminded of this comment about a certain politician who would remain unnamed. When demonetization happened, someone said that even if the government were to take away all his 500 rupee and above notes, he can still sell them in Raddi and remain the richest politician in the country. He had so much of black money. Everything is so much of black. The people who actually pay taxes, people like us, are the people who need the inheritance tax, because I have got a nest egg for my one daughter. And if that money, and I've worked all my life to put aside, and no great amount of savings, okay, that is not going to see her through her life, even if I were to, bequeath it to her. But if that 50% of that, or whatever percentage of that is taken away, is it fair on that child? And how our entire state support system and other things are not there in the same league, and you want to take away from the common man. And that is where I think they have missed the target. And if they're scaring, and you might blame Mr. Modi and others for over-dramatizing it, making it very dramatic in terms of bringing in the point by talking of Mangal Sutra, this and that, but they have to speak in the idiom which common people understand. And that's a very, very, live concern. So, and the problem with Congress is their contradiction. They will now quote the manifesto, say, where have we talked about this? This is Mr. Pitroda. Who reads the manifesto? It is people like them who are speaking. They're really communicating the thing. Half the things Rahul Gandhi speaks are not there on the manifesto. But because he speaks, people believe that's in the manifesto. That's the Congress's agenda.
Yeah. Suhel, what do you think the Congress is trying to achieve? This has greatly backfired. First, they started with the caste census. They went on and on about it. Then that caste census was linked to wealth redistribution. Now that has been linked to inherent tax. I mean, it's a completely commie manifesto.
The Congress is an interesting party. They and their select leaders will always remain rich, but they don't like other people doing well in life. They have a regressive streak in their head, and you have seen that over and over again with their policies and all of that. It's almost like saying hum khayenge par aapko nahi khane denge. Khane denge means not in terms of bribe, but earning. The other problem is that I now know why Rahul Gandhi is so messed up. If one of your key mentors is Sam Petroda, Sam Petroda's utterances itself should tell you the man is now, he's totally lost it. And he's a bright man. There's no question. He was the man behind the telecom mission. But I don't know if these guys have now suddenly decided to adopt harakiri. What is their story? Are they wanting to become lemmings where there will be mass suicide? So I really don't know where it's going. But every time they open their mouths, they put a collective Congress leadership foot into it. A, B. They are actually out of sync with India. Their universe is between 5 bungalows in Lutyens, Delhi. And I'm saying this with responsibility. You see, even when they move around surrounded by courtiers and, their chamchas. So they don't have a clue. They don't want to listen because they already think they know everything. They have a problem for every solution. They believe that they are the entitled and they're entitled and therefore destined to rule. So there's nothing that they believe they can do wrong. It's a very Julius Caesar, or actually not even Julius, it's a more Richard II mindset that they have, where they're living in their own universe. Actually, Rahul Gandhi must believe that he's the prime minister already, because he is the prime minister for about 2.5 people. The disconnect between the Congress party's leadership or the brain trust and India is evident in the utterances that the Gandhis make, whether it is to do with majoritarianism, whether it is to do with Hinduism, whether it is to do with the middle class aspirations, whether it is to be dismissive about certain castes, whether it is to be dismissive about the role of certain people. You remember Advaita, the last time he said Chaukidar Chor hai, and they spun it. They just spun it. So I'm unable to understand why this is happening. It could happen for 2 reasons. One is Rahul Gandhi is now disgusted and fed up. And I don't blame him. Look, he is up against a formidable wall. At 56, 57, whatever the hell he is, you spent your entire life hoping to make a difference, and everyone is indifferent to you. How would you feel? Number 2, you want to be different now because you are not part of the norm, because the norm has rejected you. So what do? Everything he says is being rebuffed either intellectually or jocularly, or has been made fun of. He has now started attacking the media. He's now shooting the messenger instead of the message. So if you understand what is happening there, it's actually pretty frightening, because truth be told, we need the Congress. It has 20% approval. We need an opposition in this country for it to be called a democracy. We cannot have a situation where there is no opposition. But again, as I've said repeatedly on your program, it is not Narendra Modi's job to now give birth to an opposition. So the point I'm making is, it's very easy for you to mock people's savings क्योंकि तुमने एक धेली का काम नहीं किया. You have never had to work. The bloody housing was free. The frigging cars were free. Your bloody holidays were free. Your air travel was free. You were living the life of a goddamn prince, even though your grandmother abolished the privy purses. So तुम्हारे क्या जाता है भाई? जिस आदमी ने दर्द नहीं सही, उसे जख्म की का अंदाज क्या होगा? If you've never been wounded, you will never experience pain. Yes, it is a sad time when they lost Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi. But again, for Priyanka Gandhi to say my mother sacrificed the Mangal Sutra, but he was the Prime Minister of India. The assassination was terrible and tragic. But the assassination happened because a certain section of people, in the grandmother's case, the Sikhs, and in his case, the Tamils, they felt alienated. And no one is justifying. What happened was terrible. It should not happen in any civil society. But now you can't keep allowing that here. And my point to you, Advaita, and to Sandip, and to Saurabh is, how long will we tolerate non-performance? If this man was in the corporate world, he would have been sacked in 5 years, max.
Now, there's another query that's come in, and any one of you can take this up, is that inheritance tax won't be applicable on Muslims because their inheritance is governed by personal laws. But it will be applicable on Hindus and other Indic religions because personal law is controlled by the central government. Wow. Does that make sense? Sandip?
Well,
yeah, go ahead, Saurabh. Go ahead.
No, I don't know much about the Muslim personal law, but I think it highlights a particular that there will be enough loopholes in any inheritance tax that certain people will get out of it. So if fairness is the agenda, that will not be achieved. And in the United States, there are many ways that you can diffuse, cushion, and shelter the inheritance, so not to be as taxed as before. And a little bit going off topic, but just to give you a point again about the folly of the inheritance tax, that it just singly doesn't achieve what it set out to achieve. In the UK, which has a very high inheritance tax, what a lot of middle class people do, the grandparents, is they send their grandkids or pay for the grandkids to go to private school, high elite private schools, what they call public schools over there. So already these people that would normally have gone to same school as everybody else is getting an advantage because of the dynamics of thinking about protections. So not quite the answer for the Hindu-Muslim thing in India, but it is, if that is true, it is an example of just another way that there are loopholes that people will get through those loopholes.
Sandip, same question to you.
The first part, what Saurabh said, I already covered. The rich will always find ways of skirting the law. There are various ways of tax. You can construct a trust or whatever, and you put in their money there. I don't know how the HUF rules will apply here. So those are various legal loopholes you can find. Whether the Muslim or any other religious laws allows some other means of doing it, I wouldn't know right now and would like to comment. But it's entirely possible that people will find something, and then finally you have our Supreme Court who can view and comment on certain aspects and provide protection to some groups. So all that is possible. So this is, I think, a very harebrained proposal. And by making this proposal, Rahul Gandhi thought he had it was a master stroke, or he fired a golden bullet or something. But I think it has really backfired, as everybody would say. Suhel, go ahead, please.
Go ahead.
Arun Jaitley was a very, very dear family friend and a personal friend. And when the government was formed on the 26th of May 2014, around August or September, this whole nonsense of Rahul Gandhi began by saying "Soot Boot ki sarkar." That one phrase delayed a lot of the economic initiatives that the government wanted to take. Because the government was worried that it should not be seen as a government that is sold out. You tell me, these people are constantly abusing. And today, Tavleen Singh's article was fantastic on this whole redistribution of wealth. They're putting Gautam Adani's face in an ad. They're abusing every day. The industrialists don't want to retaliate because, frankly, when a caravan moves, there are a lot of stray dogs barking. You don't respond to every stray dog. But is this the India you want? Is this what you want your children to grow up to? Is this what you want college students to grow up as? As cynical, as bitter, as suspicious people of the very industrialists who are providing them jobs and succor? Do you want to create an India where Indians themselves abuse their own industries, industrialists and leaders and corporate leaders? Do you want an India where the average Indian is made to believe that every industrialist is a thief? Because these people have bloody looted the country for 70 years. Do you want that kind of India? Do you want an India where every employee treats his employers as dacoits? What the hell is going on? Why is no one able to drill sense into this young man or not so young man? That stupidity, when it is private, is fine. Public outcry in a stupidity-laced utterance is the worst thing that you can do. Now, point I'm making is very simple. You cannot go on and on and on abusing every good thing that India has achieved. I'm saying you have your hatred for Modi. Yes, go ahead. But the point is, you can't translate that hatred into the hatred for a young man or a young woman who is starting out in a startup, for a young man or a young woman who's starting in a career. Do you want every person to look at the company that he or she is joining as a company of thieves? Do you want them to hate the very idea of the corporate world? Who's going to give them jobs? Sam Petroda? Jairam Ramesh? Have these people done 1 day's of work? No. They have lived off the frigging fat of the land. They claim to have lived off parliamentary salaries. Bullshit. Is that the lifestyle of an MP? The lifestyle that most of these people, including in the BJP, lead? So, pray, let's not be preachy about the bullshit that these people have practiced over the years. And I'm tired that this is not being called out at a higher level. I'm actually waiting for the day Gautam Adani takes this guy to court. I'm waiting for the day an Ambani or anyone takes these people to court. The Adanis and the Ambanis are too decent. You cannot allow this. You ask Saurabh, if this had happened in the United States, would it have been unchecked? So I'm not for a moment saying this political party is better than that political party. But the business of political parties is not to abuse the country that they are living in, have invested in, and are seeking votes within. Just because you are in opposition doesn't mean you oppose the very idea of India. Just because you're in opposition doesn't mean you oppose the very good that India is doing. Just because you're in opposition doesn't mean you oppose the progress that India is destined for. You mock everything. When Modi says we'll become an $X trillion economy, you make fun. Elon Musk postpones his visit, you make fun. Someone else says, oh, this has happened, you make fun. New York Times in their stupidity writes an article, you chalao it. You have 6 jokers in Lutyens, Delhi who say, oh yeah, देश खतरे में है. अरे भाई कौन सा देश कौन से खतरे में था? जब आपकी दादी ने या नानी ने जो हालत की इस देश की, तब तो आप चुप रहे, तब तो देश खतरे में नहीं था. इमरजेंसी में जब हर एक इंसान जेल में गया जिसकी आवाज थी, तब तो देश खतरे में नहीं था. जब आपने बोफोर्स किया तब देश खतरे में नहीं था. 2G का स्कैम किया, खतरे में नहीं था. 10 साल कोई गवर्नमेंट स्कैम नहीं हुई, पर अब देश खतरे में है. क्यों? क्योंकि आप देश को नहीं चला रहे. देश तब खतरे में होगा जब आप देश को चलाओगे, क्योंकि आपको देश से प्रेम है ही नहीं. आपको सत्ता से प्रेम है और आपको अपने परिवार से प्रेम है. और ये परिवार अब बदल गया है. भारत बदल गया है, भारतीयता बदल गई है और भारतीय बदल गया है. But this realization has not dawned on these stupid people. That's the problem.
Saurabh, you have sort of a wide lens, or should I say a long lens view of what's happening in India. Do you feel India has changed a lot in the last decade? And what is the perception sitting where you are?
No, India has undeniably changed. And one of the biggest shocks I got was when I was there about a year ago almost. I was in Darjeeling and there was this lady in the Mall Road. She was selling chai and everybody was paying using their iPhone. And I had a torn 20 rupee note that she said, "Nahi chalega." I was like, okay, things clearly have changed. Being TM, so somehow I managed to get a nice 20 rupee note. And that just completely shocked me, was that the fact that Telawalas, Chaiwalas, all of them were using electronic payment. And in Philadelphia, there are places where they still want you to pay cash. So I've actually shown this at conferences, like, India's digital infrastructure is actually far stronger than you have over here. It has changed dramatically. And I also remember Bihar in the 90s at the time of the Mandal Commission report, and it was a very different place. My parents used to say that I would be kidnapped and forced married, and I said, well, that's not physically possible. How does that happen? They're like, don't. Then they showed me a movie, and I was like, oh, well, maybe not. And this time in Patna, there were women in the streets till 11 o'clock. So clearly the vector is right in India. India is is doing dramatically well. Unfortunately, that's not always captured over here. For a start, whenever you look at economic progress, there are about 24 parameters you can look at, and the fact is that when you start cherry picking one or two parameters, you can put a damper on the expectation and the optimism. And people are very great at being able to do that. And one big parameter is the equality, the homogeneity in society, and that, depending on one's point of view, it's really kind of a moral position, not really a scientific position. Do you want society? Do you measure society's success by its homogeneity of of wealth, or do you measure it by the conveyor belt? How many people are moving from the lower to? And if you do the latter, there's no doubt that India is doing phenomenally well. The OECD has said that it's lifting people out of poverty by the droves, by the millions. But I want to make one point here, which is not in defense of Rahul Gandhi, but something which political analysts have described, scientists have described elsewhere, I mean, using science and strategy, which is that when someone has a bright idea, some politician, the other politician is almost compelled to say the opposite. Because if they say the bright idea, they can't differentiate themselves. So when the Democrats, and I'm kind of reversing the polarity over here, when the Democrats came up with the healthcare law, they put the Republicans in a very tight position. Because the Republicans had one or two choices: either say what the Democrats are saying in terms of the law, which was to improve access to healthcare, or say something completely different. And nobody wanted completely different. So in a sense, Rahul is kind of he's either been checkmated and he doesn't realize it, or he's on the last edges of check where he can't, and the Congress party can't claim anything that the BJP are doing that speaks of capitalism, because then they'll be like, okay, so how are you any different? What are you going to do that's any different? So in a sense, they're compelled to say things that are over dramatic, regressive, just to be different. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't any ethical values that's driving them, or some sort of corruption or nepotism, but that is a situation he does find himself in, because he can't really he has no bright idea, because all the bright idea has been taken. If I understand correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, the pay ATM idea originated from that economist Raghuram Rajan, and the BJP ran with it. So just coming up with a bright idea is not enough. It's who implements it, who takes it to scale, and so I think they're checkmate. I think he's checkmated, actually, of political ideas.
And the other
that's
thing,
the point.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was telling Saurabh, that's the point is, you just don't oppose an idea. You say, I'll do something better. And you try to, that is where they lack imagination. That is where they lack creativity. You don't say, I'll take you back 50 years to counter a point. You say that, okay, you've done a healthcare program, but my healthcare program will include A, B, C, D, which is going to make it either more effective or better. So that is where they are, I think, sadly lacking. But I just wanted to make a comment on Suhel's point about privatization and private enterprise. Suhel also talked about Sam Pitroda's telecom mission. They keep on talking what is Sam Pitroda's biggest contribution is setting up STD booths. And when you talk of what Sanjay is talking about, that would not have been possible, this data revolution, digital revolution, which you're talking about. Hadn't it been, I sometimes joke that who is really responsible for this digital revolution in India, is it Narendra Modi or Mukesh Ambani? If Mukesh Ambani did not provide data at this kind of prices, geo, and then you didn't have these sort of phones, you would not have had this digital revolution. And that is what they don't realize. They're still stuck in the mode of setting up STD booths and all of that. But to get here, to this scale, you needed private enterprise. And that's where Adani, Ambani, or all these people come in, the Sunil Mittal and the rest of it. And that is what Narendra Modi realizes. And unless you create global scale, India cannot be fighting with our old BSNLs of the world. And that's the difference. And Rahul Gandhi and all don't understand that they would keep still talking about why was Air India privatized, or why was my grandfather set up so many public sector undertakings. See what happened to those public sector undertakings. Yes, Suhel,
Yeah.
you were saying.
Yeah.
See, Advaita, you have to understand that India, and by and large, some Indians, or a lot of Indians perhaps, are always beholden to a feudal ecosystem. A feudal ecosystem only works on one premise: they control. They have the levers of power. So, in a socialist structure, the government can say, we control the airline, we control the automobile plant, we control this, we control this. Tum karoge kya agar karna chahte? So, you're willingly beholden to them. Then what happens? The select courtiers of those jokers get all the contracts. It is largesse. It is वो राजा और रंग की कहानी. राजा तय करता है कि रंग क्या करेगा, कब रंग से बात होगी, रंग किस दायरे में रहेगा. Now you can't. This country has changed. Please also understand, while we respect the contribution of an Indira Gandhi and a Rajiv Gandhi died in 1991. Indira Gandhi died on October 31, 1984. A guy who's 30 years old today doesn't even know who they were. There's no context. And he doesn't give a monkey's toss. So, in an evolved atmosphere, also please remember, 91 liberalization must have happened and did happen. But the borderless world came into being when we digitized, when we created a borderless world, when we created technology, and we created an egalitarian system of both access and consumption of technology. But you can't have a situation like this. See, my issue is, आपने elections में जो बोलना है बोलो, आपने गाली देनी है देनी है. I have one difference with Saurabh. Just because you have to oppose doesn't mean you have to look stupid. And the Democrat Party in the United States is certainly not the epitome of either intellectual evolution or intellectual awareness, nor are the Republicans. America though is in an even worse state. One guy is a rank idiot. One guy, we don't know if he's alive or dead. So don't even bring America into the context. I don't think Biden knows if he's president. Trump believes he's already president and never left. So, I mean, you guys are dealing with basket cases of a completely different order. Rahul Gandhi is kindergarten compared to that level of dementia, delusion, and madness. So, all I'm saying is that these guys either need to sack their speechwriter, look for, medical science miracles to see if a brain can be replaced, or do something like that. Or the best thing is suddenly go dumb and deaf, at least for the election period. I said on your program, the one thing that you should do is they should go with giant duct tape, identify 7 people from the Congress, and then seal their mouths until the polling is complete. क्योंकि जितना self goal उन्होंने create किया है, even Maradona feels miserable. That how are these buggers scoring one self goal after the other, और हम लोग तो खत्म ही हो गए. So 2 things I will leave you with. America is over. Okay? America is good. The accent is good, and you can have the Philly cheese, and you can have the fried chicken, and the Met Gala, and you scratch the surface, sabhi khokhle. Biden, poor chap, I mean, he forget confusing between the names of the heads of state. I was worried if he still believed that North America had subsumed South America, because he's capable of that level of intellectual evolution. Trump ka to kuch kehna hi nahi. So all I'm saying is, we should again look at a silver lining in every dark cloud. I'm delighted that Rahul Gandhi is around. Otherwise, what would we be doing on the Sunday Club? I'm delighted that Narendra Modi is around so that he can provoke a Rahul Gandhi to make the kind of utterances he does. I'm delighted and grateful for the massive intellectual contribution of Sam Petroda and Mani Shankar Iyer when money is sober. So we are blessed in this country. By everyone, you see, India is like the bumblebee. Aerodynamically, the bumblebee is not supposed to fly because of its size. But you see, the bumblebee doesn't know that. So it's flying happily. In Congress also, everyone is flying. Everyone thinks, apna to Rahul hi Prime Minister hoga. So they are living in a bubble. Why should we burst the bubble? Usko bhi chalne do. June 4th, Sunday, they'll be fresh. We lost. It'll be the same SOP. One boy will go to Bangkok, one boy will go to London, someone will go to the United States. Chal mere bhai. Plus it's hot, so they have every justification.
Okay, I like how our viewers are already calling Saurabh Bihari British.
Yeah, I just hope that the Bihari comes out as well. I just want to say one thing to Suhel. I don't want to sound as if I'm defending the United States or Philly cheesesteak. I prefer chicken korma and lamb kebab. I will say that the alliances that are going to form in the next 15, 20 years, the American-Indian alliance is probably going to be the most important because of the economic development, and for the United States, quite frankly, for protection of the dollar as the reserve trading currency. If there's any chance of that in the future, it's going to be with partnering with India against a strong BRICS. I would summarize your American dilemma as between a president who might be in jail and a president who should be in a nursing home, and that sounds very much like Bihar, actually.
But Bihar, I'll provide you a quote from Atal Bihari
You guys have to evolve. Americans have to evolve. Our politicians have converted jails into hospitals, hospitals into jail, jails into hotels, hotels into jail. They are at a different level.
That's a good one.
That is
Saurabh,
so
you can, yeah, you can use the Atal Bihari joke. Atal Bihari ko, he was told by Lalu Prasad in Parliament on something that he said, अटल जी आप इतना मत अटल रहिए इस बात पे. तो अटल जी बोला मैं अटल भी हूँ, मैं बिहारी भी हूँ. तो आप ये नहीं, तो you can also say अटल भी हूँ, बिहारी the sort of American भी हूँ, बिहारी भी हूँ types. But the point is,
now you only speak in Hindi now going forward for the rest of the show. Okay.
ये तो बहुत मुश्किल है. इसमें तो हम केवल सपने देखते हैं हिंदी में, बात नहीं कर पाते हैं.
But Suhel, the problem is, look at the Congress latest ads. They are making this thing about Rahul Gandhi going and making the speech from Red Fort, all the cavalcade, everything is coming. They are into that world. And I had the fortune of having dinner with a very eminent journalist, some of you may know. And she was... and she was scared to go to these press conferences. She says these people have become so arrogant and rude. They treat us so badly. I don't know whether I'll go and cover some of that. So that is the level of, they're already behaving as if they are the party in power. And that's really worrying.
And the messaging, Sandip, is very, very vindictive, right? We'll go after the IT guys. We'll go after the ED guys. We'll go after you, the middle class, and your inheritance. I mean, the messaging is just that we're coming for you. And of course,
and people say that, they talk about Narendra Modi being an autocrat and a dictator. You speak half a word against not against, at variance with the boss, and you see the kind of reaction not only of the boss but the coterie around him. They will just chop you to pieces. You'll be a persona non grata the next minute. So the level of tolerance there is absolutely appalling. And people, those who are who see the sapna, thinking from outside this whole glitz and the glamour and wearing, those suits, that particular ad shows how he's almost appearing to go and take oath or go on to. That's just shows our mindset. But actually, Advaita, nothing has changed in Delhi in the last 70 years. I'm reading a Bengali classic, which none of you, unfortunately, can read. It came out almost 80 years ago, and that was a really a blockbuster those days. And people, if you read that classic, you find Delhi, the Lutyens' Delhi, was exactly the same. And as Suhel is saying, people waited for crumbs even then. And this author had so beautifully described, how even a kid would talk about her dad's British colleague across, and the kid of that family was very mean to her, but she said, "But he still brings me chocolates when he goes to England." It's that kind of a syndrome which has existed from then to now. So it's not just contracts; it's just those little favors, getting some positions here, some club memberships there, and the rest of it. That's what keeps Lutyens' Delhi going.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the other thing I want to dip into before we close the show out is this whole caste census. Saurabh, when we were chatting, you of course brought up the mandal because that was something that you recall from your youth. But you're saying now with your kids going into college in the United States, they're facing caste queries and things of that sort.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't believe that it's happening, but it is in the United States of all places. And there's this kind of idea that that people are looking into caste. Now, my kids would be lucky if they could point India on the map. And for people to think that they somehow know who is Brahmin and who's not, it's specialized knowledge. And I've asked people, so what caste is Singh, by the way? I bet there's a 35% chance you'll get that wrong. So it's ridiculous, and it's just part of this new ongoing movement in American campuses where you look at the world in the lens of the oppressor and the oppressed, and they're running out of oppressors. I mean, how much can you keep blaming the white man? In all fairness, they've done their bad damage. We've been blaming them. It's over and done with. Now they need new ideas, and these new ideas, these new things keep propping up. It's very destructive. I can't see how those that talk about, fomenting hate through religion can tolerate the fomentation of hate through caste. I mean, that just doesn't make sense. That's not the unity. Those are double standards, and it's regressive. And I just think that I thought India had moved away from it. I thought, with all the privatization, the emphasis on competence and everything else, we'd moved on away from it. So really, I mean, if there's one reason why I absolutely detest Rahul Gandhi, it's because of that. I think it's just completely working backwards.
Yeah. So this is something that's basically his baby, if we were to put it that way. Again, bringing in caste, and this is something that the hard left does a lot of. And I think it's fair to say now, after all the examples that we've seen and all the things that he's said in the past couple of years and in the run-up to this election and during the campaign, is that he's a lefty and he's a hard left person. And I think that's maybe something. Go ahead, Suhel. Yeah.
He's not a lefty. He's not a lefty. He's not a righty. He's not a centrist. He is playing to the gallery. Let me tell you, the biggest scoundrels in the world are the lefties. They're absolute rascals. I was born and raised in Calcutta. I know how these jokers functioned. You think Jyoti Basu was any kind of communist? Not at all. He did everything that any normal person would do if he had access to funds. The guy would, in those days, sip Blue Label, traveled, lived on Tottenham Court Road for the summer. So all this bullshit about, we are leftist on. Kuch nahi. Bhai, agar aap leftist ho, Arvind Kejriwal, who promised us to be simple, saw his mansion. Let them give up everything. So this is all कहने की बात है. और जो बादल गजरते हैं, क्या? What is the thing? वो बरसते नहीं.
जो बादल गजरते हैं,
वो बरसते नहीं है. So all this is fine. A, B, we have a pernicious society construct in the form of most of our journalists. Journalists are basically, most of them, I can't say everyone, they're basically unhappy, bitter people. I mean, can you imagine spending your entire life covering someone else? तुम्हारा तो पूरा जिंदगी चली गई. You have to interview someone else. You have to write on someone else. You have to cover someone else. जूते पढ़ते हैं वो किसी और से पढ़ते हैं. Election on a plate, you have to eat food which is served in those politicians' homes. Who knows कौन क्या poison खिला रहा है आपको. So journalists would love this. See, there is a completely deviousness in the Indian system, which, by the way, has kind of ebbed now. Earlier, Indians were unhappy seeing a happy Indian. I'll give you a test. Do that tomorrow. If you get attacked, don't blame me. Stand on the road and just smile at someone. Just say, you know, and the guy will come to you. क्या हुआ भाई? क्यों हंस रहे हो? क्या बात है? In our country, we can't even smile anymore without being suspected. So you think these guys will leave industrialists alone? They are unhappy. They are bitter. Yeah, you tell me. Let's be logical. With all respect to Rahul Gandhi, you are now 57 or 58, whatever the hell he is. Okay? Everyone has told you, beta, सूरज तुम्हारे मुंह से या तुम्हारे चेहरे से उठेगा और उसी में डूबेगा. So many years ago, I used to say, and I'm more Bengali than Bengalis. Why was Jesus Christ a Bengali? He stayed with his mother till he was 32. And then he died. His mother thought he was the son of God. And he believed his mother was a virgin. Now you extrapolate that on Rahul. Sonia believes that the next best thing after a nice brioche, not even sliced bread, is Rahul Gandhi. All his chamcha chapatas believe he's the man destined to lead India out of God knows what. He believes his mother is absolutely right, and so are his chamchas that he is the heir. Bhai, heir is spelt H-E-I-R. But for some of these people, to the schools they went, it was always spelled A-I-R. It may be pronounced the same way, but it's spelled differently. But no one has given them a reality check. भाई आपको reality check मिलेगी कैसे? If day in and day out you're surrounded by yes men oblique women, and you believe the sun shines out of your ass, how will you get a reality check? Now suppose you and I give a reality check, they will say these guys are bhakts. Yeah, you can't criticize. A reporter asked him a question. Oh, that's a BJP question. Are bhai, the reporter could not sacrifice his or her intelligence to ask a Congress question mired in stupidity. That's why he asked an intelligent question. So now what they have done is as follows. It's a George W. Bush 42 theory. When I say 42 means 42nd president, because there were two George W. Bushes, as Saurabh would tell us. When 9/11 happened, he said, you're either with us or for us. But you're either with us or against us. This is exactly Rahul Gandhi's strategy.
Yeah.
And these jokers are talking about tolerance. भाई एक प्रश्न एक प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस में आप सह नहीं सकते. एक प्रश्न को आप गाली देते हो, प्रश्न पूछने वाले को गाली देते हो, और फिर आप बोलते हो नहीं भाई मोदी डिक्टेटर है. हाँ डिक्टेटर है, क्या कर लोगे? आप इलेक्शन जीत के आओ. You blame the EVMs, then tell Revant Reddy that he's illegal. Tell Ashok Gehlot that he was illegally placed as the chief minister, because the same bloody EVMs were used. What is good for the goose is equally good for the
gander.
Correct.
And everyone, we're over 2,100 people live watching us this evening. Please go
ahead and
like, like, share, subscribe, all of that. And it's very, very, very important that you do that. And okay, before we go, we of course like to encourage people to vote. Meanwhile, there's a photograph that Sandip wants me to share with you all. I'm unable to do it on my screen, but Pallavi is on a flight as we speak, hence she couldn't be here. Trust me, if she got signal on the airplane, she would be here, and I think you all
She's not on any airplane yet. She's not on any airplane. Not at all. Her sanctioned mode of transport is BC, as in bullock cart. She gets upgraded to a car occasionally. Don't tell us, oh, ऐसे तो सभी मॉफ करके कर देंगे.
Okay. Meanwhile, here is from our friend Abhijit an appeal to vote. Here you go.
मुंबई के मशहूर हॉर्नी मैन सर्कल में और मैं आपके लिए मेरा अलौकिक नृत्य करेंगे.
His accent is like Sorabs.
चलो ईवीएम दबा के आए, चलो वोट करें हम सब मोदी के लिए, चलो वोट करके आए हम, चलो मोदी को जिताएं, चलो कमल को जिताएं, चलो बीजेपी को जिताएं सनम, चलो मोदी को जिताएं, चलो कमल को जिताएं, चलो सनम।
But Saurabh, just want to know, Pallavi has got a Bihari, camera journalist with her, whom she sent off last evening to eat litti chokha in Calcutta.
Oh, I haven't myself had the best lati choka before, but the one thing that Biharis have copied from Bengalis, and I think we've done a BJP on that, is the march path, and our march path comes with sarso ka tel, sarso, and it tastes divine. It's better than the best food in the world.
Good. I
It's
agree
better
with you.
than the Bengali Achar Bhata.
No, their match is good because they're either from the river or small ponds. Now Bengal, you get all these fish coming from Andhra and other places. Their fish curry is very nice. But you make excellent mutton too.
Oh yes, the Champaran mutton, very tasty.
No, even normal mutton curry, that itself is very good. Anyway, on that note, maybe we'll
we'll wrap it up
No.
today. I thank Saurabh for joining us. I hope you'll come
Thank
back.
you.
They're saying if you don't speak Bihari, then you can at least speak Bhojpuri. That's what the chats are saying. So
I'll try my best.
So I think do like, share, subscribe, everybody, and it was a pleasure to have you all on the show, and talk to you all soon. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.
Good night.